You like my setup?
I do. It's like purple and like reddish burgundy. It's kind of like matching what I have going on here right now. Raihana!
Yay!
Okay, thank you so much for taking on this interview. I don't think I've like talked to you, like I've texted you, but I don't think I've talked to you about like what this project is. So I'm in a wonderful class called Queer Quest with Rebecca Edwards, and we have like a end of like the end of the school, not end of school, but like end of the course project that's due. And my intention initially was to do like a documentary, a mini style documentary. Wait, hold up, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. My intention was to do like a mini style documentary of me interviewing just a few queer people. But COVID hit, coronavirus, and what it did was I can't interview people like face to face, but because I could go virtually, I could interview so many more people.
Yeah, I bet.
So you're definitely one of the people that I feel very connected with and would love to interview.
So exciting. I'm happy to be here. So,
So let's jump into it. Tell me about yourself.
okay.
What's your name, your age, and I found that this word is weird, but occupation. Like, what do
It
you?
is. Okay, so my name is Raihana Jacqueline Haynes-Venerable. I'm 25 years old, and I guess I consider myself an artist. I'm a writer and a photographer. I'm also a barista, so there's that. But but yeah, that's me.
Nice. What is your gender expression and sexual identity? If you feel comfortable answering that question.
So I guess I would consider myself a femme, a woman, and I'm bisexual. So yeah, that's my gender identity, my sexual identity.
Got you. Got you. Um, where do you find home?
That's such a good question. I was like thinking about it. Um, honestly, school. I freaking love education. It's like I keep going back to get more degrees, and I probably will. I don't know if I'll ever stop, but I think being in a classroom and like being in a space where people are like really thinking and not like in a highbrow kind of weird way, but like in a sense that like people actually want to reach a common thought or like sort of like idea or build something together. That's like really where I find home.
You know, it's weird, or not weird, but I find school to be very, um, like pleasing as well. I I remember getting my bachelor's and then I went like straight into teaching, and I was like, what? There's no spaces to actually like think and cultivate ideas and, you
Yeah.
know, share connections. And that's why I went back to school, because I was like, I can't survive like this. But it's weird because a lot of Black people in particular are like, school is overrated, this is stupid, why would I go back? And it's interesting, I think Black femmes or Black women in particularly find connection at home. I mean,
Yeah.
connection at school as home.
Hmm. I
Yeah,
think so too.
that's where we met each other. So I mean, something
Yes.
something beautiful about that
To change that ever.
is, what are you searching for?
Ooh, I always joke about like my cult, but like, but like,
We talked about
really,
this many times.
but really, it's like this concept of like community that I think I find in education in school. But like, yeah, just like a space where there are. I'm sorry, there's like an echo in my room. But a space where you know, people can come and be collective and can create for each other and with each other. Yeah, I think I'm searching for like just commonality and and a sense of like difference, right? Like that people are different and people are going to bring different things to this space. But yeah, I want to create something where people just feel safe and feel, you know, connected and I don't know, surrounded by love. And
Are there any cults that you've done research in or just come across that you would model your potential cult after?
it's a commune.
Ah, it's not a cult, it's a commune. You're right, it's a commune.
Actually, not really. I mean, cults are definitely scary, so that's why I would never model anything I make after a real cult. They're actually really scary with all the love bombing and stuff. So I've actually like researched cults, sort of. So I would never actually want to have one. But no, I feel like communes are so weird, and I don't know if there's many records about them. I would have to do more research, but I think yeah, I might look into that.
Okay. Who's the first person on screen or in music or on stage that you felt connected to?
Brandy.
Yes. Oh, please expand on that.
Cinderella with Brandy and Whitney. That was the first time. Like, okay, so I love Cinderella. Like, that's my favorite like character ever.
Like that
And
particular movie or just the character Cinderella?
well, the character Cinderella, right? So like growing up, I always wanted to be Cinderella, and like when I saw Brandy as Cinderella, I was like, what? Right? Like I was like, this is it. Like I'm black, she's black, and she's Cinderella. Oh yeah, like this is me. So that's the first time that I felt like connected to somebody on screen. Yeah. And I mean, of course, the music and the like there's no way you can watch that movie and not like I still watch it today and cry and like feel it, and you know she just did such an amazing job in that film.
I was watching a clip of Brandy and um, God Whitney singing or recording the "It's Possible" song, and it was
Yes.
so beautiful to watch Whitney be like, "Brandy, why are you singing that low? Like, get it together. This is how we're gonna harmonize." Like Whitney was her fairy godmother, like in real life and in the movie, so it was
Yeah,
perfect.
right? And she picked Brandy. She picked Brandy. Like that's awesome to me because like I know that Whitney wanted to be Cinderella, but she like over time like it took too long to create the movie, so she was like you know in a position to be the fairy godmother in
Mm.
that and like actually became one. I think that's beautiful.
I wonder, let's go down this path. Have you seen the Whitney documentary?
I haven't watched it. No,
Oh wow. Okay, I would suggest you watch it.
I need to.
I me too. Yeah, I'm not gonna give too much away, but uh I feel like Whitney's story as a queer Black woman is very telling. So I hope you enjoy that.
I will. I'll watch it. You know, I'll text you.
Okay, yes, text me throughout the whole thing. I'll be like, I said, yep, I told you. Dang. When do you feel most safe?
Ooh, this question.
Mm.
In all honesty, I don't know if I ever feel safe. Um, and like, I think there are moments, right, like where I'm alone in my room or like I'm hugging my mom or like I'm with you and, you know, certain people, but I feel like there's always this looming like presence, and I think part of that is being just like black in America, like that's just a part of our daily existence. So yeah, I mean safety is such a uh sticky word. It's not, because it's like, what makes you safe? Like this knowledge that you get to be who you are, right, in a space without worry that, you know, someone's gonna come and like rip that away from you, or like literally take your life.
I know you talk about that a lot in your manuscript and some of the poetry that I've read of yours. And I think you worked on it like on your final thesis project in undergrad about like, I don't want to say school shootings, but mass shooters.
Yeah, yeah.
Want to expand on that, like in the terms of safety and like what conclusions you've come up with in as a result of your research?
Yeah, so I guess I would say that in my research, so let's see, I wrote about school and mass shootings, and kind of how the state utilizes these things to kind of um, kill Black people in the long run, right? So like, it seems like a big leap, but in actuality, it's kind of like there are pockets, right, of people who are of a certain identity, say the white male youth, who do heinous things, right? Like go into churches and kill people. And in turn, they're created into these like monsterized versions of their identities, right? They're created, or they're like made into these, what's the word I'm looking for?
I feel like a monolith, like a powerhouse or a monolith of an identity instead of
Yeah,
instead
yeah.
of
And
seeing like
they're
there's
like
a
an individual. They're not just a person at that point.
yeah.
And they sort of become, I don't want to say blackened, but in a way, they're like their identity shifts and they can be equated to certain other identities, right? And so when they're sort of dehumanized in that sense, right? The state is able to say, let's kill this person, right? Capital punishment. And so when we allow the state to say, we're going to kill this person because of these actions, because they're no longer human, we allow the state to create what is human, right? Like we allow them to define these like to define humanity and define what is worth protecting and who is worth protecting. And so then we get into things like police brutality, or you know, even just like renting a home, right? Like people, you know, having the power to say, well, this person did this in this scenario and that's monstrous to me, and that's monstrous on a grand scheme, right? And then that becomes, you know, uh, what allows for us to be just taken away at any moment.
Were you there when we saw Alicia Garza?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Do you, if you could, for people who are listening in, Alicia Garza believes in like a foreseeable future for Black people or Blackness to exist. I remember talking to Dwayne and talking to you and being like very motivated by that conversation with her. Um, Based off of the research that you've done and like the conclusion that you've come to, what would you do in response to these mass shooters, like how the state utilizes these white terrorists essentially? What would you do if you could create a foreseeable solution or a tangible
Yeah,
solution?
that's really like the question, and that's something I always have had trouble with, um which is what brings me back to like community, because like there's no way that like I personally, with my own experiences and like just who I am as an individual, I don't think I alone could come up with a solution,
Gotcha.
So like that's why like being in a classroom and like coming up with those ideas together is like so intriguing to me, because like I feel like I don't have the capacity to actually answer that question.
Yeah, it's a series of people, a series of ideas, perspectives, firsthand accounts that are really going to come up with the creative answer to a creative problem.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's okay to say, but like I don't think it can actually answer the question.
That's completely honest and completely fair. Like, why should a Black femme have the answers for all this shit about like these white people and their damn mess? Have you seen The Joker?
Yes.
No, I just, because we're on the subject of like white
Oh,
terrorists.
it's a great one to bring out.
What were your thoughts on the use of Black femmes in that film?
Yeah. Oof.
I feel like before we go into it, just before we go into it, I feel like everyone who was not a Black femme, it like completely went over their head.
Yeah.
What go, please tell me what you think.
Like, okay, so I feel like, the character, the Joker, isn't supposed to be likable, right? We're not supposed to identify with him, yada, yada, blah, 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 right? So, like, but there are people that do identify with him.
Very much so.
So, right. So, this is a mentally ill person who's been failed by the state, who's been failed by, his work.
Hypothetical father and his mother.
Yeah. So it's kind of like all of these things are building up in his life, and then he goes and kills a bunch of people, right? Like that's sort of like the layout of it. But the agents of all of this, like, were mostly Black women, like, right? So you have like the psychiatrist or whatever who's a Black woman, and she's like, well, there's nothing I can do about this, right? Like,
and in that
right.
part too, I remember she was like, well, I can't do anything about it, but also like you and I are in the same playing field.
Yeah.
Like that scene was like, well, I'm also at the bottom of this totem pole, and you, white man, who are mentally ill, are also at the same level of this totem pole,
Which is interesting. And then you have the woman that he like created a relationship with, right? Like, and she was a Black woman, a Black mother, right? Like she had a child, she was single, and there's something to be said about that also, that like men often make up relationships with women. That's something that happens often, and women end up hurt by fictionalized relationships with men,
or murdered.
Yeah, hurt or murdered, right? And so I don't know. I think there was really no way for me to connect with the Joker. Like, I think the acting was great, the film itself was made well, sure, but at the end of the day, when you get down to it, it's like this film, what did it do? What is it saying about like us as a society, about like how we perceive the injured, right? Injured as in, having a mental illness, Black, or not Black, white man, as this sort of his reclaiming of his identity as like a top tier white man, the uninjured white man, right? Like that's essentially what he was working towards, right? He wanted to be like them. It's not that he wanted to get rid of them, or that he, right, he wanted to replace them. And that's the
landscape.
Yeah, it's like it's how do you oh god, that movie. I'm sorry, I have so many thoughts about this movie.
Hey.
And it's just like, because I watched it with a Black man actually, and he loved it. He
Wow.
absolutely loved the film. And that was very interesting to me. And he was like, I understand where he's coming from. Like, the concept of the beatings and him being abused and like having this rage and this anger. And my thing was like,
are they appropriating the mentally ill, or like I hate to use this word, but this is the only thing that's coming to mind, like physically inferior white body and equating it to the Black body in the sense, and
yes,
putting it through
absolutely.
the similar things that the Black body would typically experience within the American construct.
Yeah, absolutely. There's like a way that, and I have a book on this actually, but there's a way that like the injury or the crippled or the mentally unstable, mentally disabled white male figure becomes like muted in the sense that he doesn't have the same power as a white man. And I don't necessarily know if that's accurate.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, I noticed in the movie, going back to the discussion of the Black femmes, so we never saw their murders on screen.
Mm-mm.
And to me, that was kind of like a signaling of like, yeah, Black femmes die at the expense of these white males, but we're just going to put this to the side and absolutely no one is going to know.
Yeah.
And the only time that there was any like political or social unrest was when he actually violated white bodies. It's like,
Yeah.
that's when the society was like, yeah, there's something wrong, we must do something about it, yeah, I'm gonna rally behind this, or I feel connected to this Joker. But the deaths that were actually quite silent were the Black femmes, and it just was
Invisibilized.
there was no social political
Yeah.
law repercussions for any of those murders that he did.
No.
And I
It's
really,
like,
oh yeah, go ahead.
well, the more intimate, the more like personalized, like those should have been the moments, right? That we saw. I mean, not saying that I wanted to see them, but it should be like those were some of the people that essentially hurt him the most, right? Like his personal, like who he believed himself to be. So like I wonder like why there is this need to erase or kind of invisibilize the Black femme in that way. But I think, I mean, that is like, that's in a lot of film and a lot of, media. That's how Black femmes are treated, right? As cast decidable.
Yeah. Man, that movie, I walked out of that movie and been like, what the fuck did I just watch? I just, this is disgusting.
Yeah, no, it wasn't like the whole time I was just like, mm.
And just to kind of, because just to top it off, the man that went in as a Joker when the other Batman movies were going on, and he went in and killed everyone in that theater.
Oh yeah.
I felt like this was his movie.
Yes.
I was like, oh, they just made him into the
actual. You know what? That is a very valid. Yeah, that's very valid. Yeah.
This is what okay, enough with these fucking weirdo white men. I'm sick of it.
Switch.
Right, flip the switch. When's the first time that you realized you were Black?
Okay, so growing up in Arizona, I don't know if I ever really didn't know I was Black.
Okay.
Like, I was first called the N-word in in first grade. So I was like 6. So like some of my earliest memories are like of racialized incidences. Um, and like there was I can't ever remember a time when I didn't know that I was other, that I was different from, the people I was around. I mean, I was one of maybe two, between 2 and 4 in my like whole school. So it's like, yeah, it wasn't ever really something I didn't know. Um,
How did that make you feel?
I think because of the way that my parents kind of instilled in me like a pride of my blackness, I kind of never really felt any sort of negativity on my own, like towards myself, inwards, internalized at all. So that was never the issue. I definitely always felt it from the outside though.
Okay.
So that was something that I kind of struggled with, not really understanding at a younger age too, that like this was going to be something I would have to engage with my whole life. But yeah, I pretty much knew, but I kind of had to know being where I was.
It's like your blackness almost became like a I don't want to say like a protection, almost like
Yeah, it was a shield, definitely.
yeah, I'm
It was
clear about what this is and what this means to me.
exactly.
Nice.
And like that's really a testament to like my black ass parents. But like because I think it's also because of sort of class as well, right? Like I'm a middle class, not middle class, like upper middle class, really. My parents are both doctors. And like to have them in positions of power really in the community too, right? Like a lot of people, go see my parents as their physician and their dentist. So it's like seeing them in those kinds of positions, and having them kind of instill in me this kind of idea that like you are black and you are capable, right? Like, and we are capable and we are here, right? Like that really solidified that kind of shield of my blackness.
That's beautiful. I'm gonna write that down. When did you realize you were queer?
So I feel like this is a story, right? That like a lot of queer girls have, right? So like I can remember being like 8, 9 and like kissing other girls and like cuddling with other girls and like loving it, and then getting to like 12 and the other girls being like, that's not a thing. Like
Wow.
we don't do that. And me being like, oh wait, really? Like still wanting to have those kinds of like connections and intimacies. And I feel like that moment of like sort of rejection was like, oh, okay, this is wrong and I shouldn't feel this way. Um, and sort of like ended up pushing me to like not kind of go for relationships with women, or girls like at a young age. So I feel like I knew that there was something there, but it wasn't really until like maybe I got to college that I like actually solidified my own queer identity. Because like I still kissed girls and like still like, had like intimate relationships with girls, but like it wasn't until like I felt like I had permission until I started reading like queer theory and like reading queer books. And yeah, that was like
funny.
kind of,
That same thing happened to me. Like I remember having an experience at a very young age, and it was kind of looked down upon and never spoken about again. So I had all these feelings that I never acted out on them. I'm one that reserves myself, period, like in all interactions until I feel like absolutely safe.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until I read queer theory that I started putting a language to the feelings that I was experiencing. Because there is no, unless you're taught explicitly these languages, the language or the feelings or the ideas around, wanting intimacy and all those things, there's nothing that really suffices for what you're experiencing. It's
Yeah.
beautiful. Is there any queer theorist or just Black theorist, feminist theorist that really speaks to you?
Um, well, there's June Jordan, of course, and Audre Lorde. Those were the two big ones. And then just like queer and Black theory, we've got James Baldwin, and I could read James Baldwin till I dropped. So yeah, he was really a big one for me. Just like because of like just like his analysis of Blackness and whiteness and all of that. He's really like one of my like biggest kind of ancestral I don't know, like connections.
Nice. Nice. If you could go back to your 12-year-old self, because you said that at 12 years old, people started saying, hey, we don't do this anymore. What would you tell her?
Tell her just go for it, man. Like, you know, like she was scared. She got scared, and I like she had relationships with boys, and they didn't go out. So they didn't go so well, and that's okay. But like, I would have told her not to shield herself from who she felt like she wanted to be with.
It's a beautiful answer. What do you want to hear from your 60-year-old self?
Bro, that we did it, that we built that commune, man. I want to hear it. Like, come to me in my dream, future self, and tell me that we did it. You know?
Nice. This is my last question. I always say it's my last question, that someone says something brilliant and I kind of riff off of that. But, oh, no, it's not my last question. How do you experience love?
Oh gosh. What is love? No,
What is love?
I honestly, can I just say through you, dude, like no lie, you have like shaped a lot of like currently like who I am today. Like, for me, this past couple of years were really rough, right? Losing my grandpa, being sexually assaulted, and like things like that, and I had you and I had, our Black group, but like really you and David and Dwayne, you three like became a real family to me in a way that like I have my family and they're very supportive and loving, but like you three like made me feel like a person again. Like I was like, like I could, go on. Like I could keep creating and I could keep, you know, I could have relationships, right? Like I could, love you all. And like that was something I was mostly afraid of, was being able to like give love. And like you all have like retaught me kind of how to like be loving and to be loved. And I think, yeah, I think you all just like literally just sitting with you and like laughing at something so stupid, right? Like and like making fun of whatever. Like I think that like just having you and having, some of these relationships have really shaped how I feel about love and how I view love.
I want to say thank you for that. And you have been the most open and receptive person for me to even give love. Like I remember being like at the Mills couches during, I can't remember what's the event that happens every Tuesday? I always forget it.
Oh, the freaking
Writer series.
yeah, the writers, place for writers,
Place for writers. I remember being like at the first or second place for writers. I'm like, wow, that little person, they look so fucking awesome. I want to be your friend. And the first time I ran into you, I had an extra apple juice, and I was like, this is my shot. This is it. Do you want an apple juice? And I think that's one of the best decisions. I mean, as many decisions as I've made in the last 2 years, handing you an apple juice and being like, hey, how are you? I'm Mimi. You know, who are you? What's going on? Like, that was one of the best decisions I've made in the past 2 years.
I love you.
So I want to say thank you. I love you too. And you are hands down the smartest person I've met in the past 2 years too. Like, you're a fucking genius. It's unbelievable. I mean, it is. I'm not saying unbelievable in like a bad way, but
no, yeah.
I've met 50. I have 50-year-old friends. I have 60-year-old friends. I have 30-some-year-old friends. I've had people of like all ages, all experiences, wisdom. Like, you're hands down the smartest person I've met. You're just
Whew.
love.
I love you so much. I just know.
Okay, this is my last question. If you could change your identity, would you? Why or why not?
I want to say no, right?
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
No, I want to.
But, yeah, but
because like, okay, really, I love who I am. But if you could, if you told me I could wake up as a freaking white billionaire today, shoot.
You would take it?
I'd do it.
Okay. What's the first thing you would do? Okay,
but because of the society we are in right now. Like, I would love to create a new society, and I love who I am, no lie. I mean, I wouldn't really change myself, no. But I think it'd be cool. I mean, you know.
Would you take all the experiences and knowledge that you currently have in this body and then take it over to your white hypothetical self?
Okay, see, if I did that, then we would have, you know, a world building changing. We'd be able to change some stuff. So I'd say yes. Okay. Because if I didn't, then I'd just be like everybody else, you know? And we'd still be stuck in the same place.
Like, what's that motherfucker? He looks like an evil genius to me. He's the bald-headed one that runs Amazon.
Jeff
Bezos. He reminds me of this weird evil genius who's like not from this planet. And
he's an alien. Him and Mark Zuckerberg, they're so weird.
Mark Zuckerberg is like definitely like some kind of fucking like reptilian insect motherfucker. Like, his eyes don't even look right. And they cut his bangs to right here. I said, oh my God.
Who made you? Like, what lab created you?
What constellation? Because it's not this bitch.
Oh my gosh. No, yeah, these billionaires, they got to go for real though. We need to bring the guillotine back just for them. Because
you know what's weird though? We have Black billionaires, and I fuck with them because they seem cool as heck. But it's at the same time, there seems to be some disconnect that's happening.
Huge disconnect. Like, okay, Oprah, come on.
I was talking about Oprah with William the other day.
Like, I don't get it. And even the Noel Carters, right? Like Beyonce ain't.
It's tone deaf, right? Something's tone deaf about it. It just doesn't.
It's like, okay, especially when you look at today, like with coronavirus and everything, it is so apparent, right? Like, the fact that you can stay in your home and work from home is a privilege, right?
Yeah.
Like, I don't even have a job. Like, I don't even have a job right now. Like, and there's literally people who don't have homes, who are considered essential workers. I have friends who are working at the Safeway that I used to work at, right? Working 14-hour days for freaking $12 an hour. That's insane. That is literally insane. But they're essential, so they're exposing themselves daily to a virus that could kill them. Like, what? And then you have people who have billions and millions of dollars, and you have the government bailing them out. Like, why are we bailing out freaking airliners? Like,
when no one's fucking flying.
no one's flying. Who gives a shit? Like, my brother, he was supposed to come to Arizona. He lives in Illinois, right? And he was supposed to come to Arizona for spring break, right? But he couldn't because of coronavirus, right? So he went to the airline to get a refund, right, on his $550 ticket, right? They refused to give him a refund. They will only give him credit towards another ticket, right?
But they're not even losing money at this point.
They're not. So who is really affected is these people. Like, my brother doesn't need credit towards another ticket in the future, because who the fuck knows when he's gonna be able to fly, right? Yeah. $550 is groceries for a while, right? Yes. So it's like, what are we doing here? What is going on? Why are we bailing out the wrong people? Because when they keep making money, as long as they have money, they don't care about anybody else.
I will say this. I definitely think that you, in some foreseeable future, should run for a political office. I'm just throwing that out there.
Oh, gosh.
When it happens, I'll be like, I said it on this day, on this interview, and I knew that this person had it in them this whole time. Don't forget, little old me right here. I think you could do it. You have the mind, and you have it.
I hate it so much. I hate politics so much, bruh.
But you talk about politics all the time. For real.
I think that's why I hate it so much. No, that's how I know I hate it so much, because I talk about it so much. But yeah, you're right. I probably will one day. We'll see.
Well, is there anything that I did not ask or didn't touch upon that you really want to express at this moment?
I don't think so. I think we covered a lot, actually.
Yeah, we did.
And I cried. Like,
don't feel bad. I've had a couple people cry on me so far, so good. I've cried a couple times. That
means that it's working. That means that this matters.
Oh. You know? All right, let me stop this recording right quick.